Hey, it's Heidenreich, former WWE World Tag Team Champion with the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom. I'm about to do a career interview with thehannibaltv.com, so check it out. All my friends, you know where to find me.
Before we actually start, your face is a little bruised up. Just before anyone makes up any rumors about you or anything, do you want to explain what happened to your face?
Yeah, I mean, I can show you if that's okay, huh?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, what actually happened, I had a cyst that had been forming up here for several years, getting larger and larger, and I had been putting it off. Finally, I had it removed, and it was just fatty tissue, no cancer. But I had that done on Monday. I was trying to get the lump taken out before this, because you take out the pictures and you got the lump, but it ended up being worse, I think, with the stitches, and it bruised, you know. I've been icing, but I stood on my feet today and it looked like it bruised and got worse. But that's what's going on. That's why I got the hat and glasses, because I just don't want to look like Rocky, you know.
But you're okay?
Oh yeah, everything's good, yeah.
How long's the recovery period going to be?
Well, I think they take stitches out of 10 days, so that'll be Wednesday or Thursday of this following week. And then I imagine the bruising will be gone another week or 10 days. Because I've been icing, and I'm going to start doing ice and heat contrast, you know, which gets the blood out of it. So yeah, I'll be okay. And
the operation, you were telling me off camera, it was covered, so you didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Thankfully, my dad's wife's a doctor, and it was somebody she knew, so yeah, it was a blessing.
And speaking of your dad, to start this interview from the beginning, what was your childhood like?
Oh man, I always say I had the best childhood out of anybody I've ever met. My mom and dad were together the whole time I was growing up. My father was a karate instructor in a dojo, so I grew up in a Shotokan dojo. From the time I could walk, I was doing karate, and you know, at 6 years old, I started training and had my black belt like at 10 or 11. So that was, me and my dad, you know, were really close. We always worked together. He trained with me in football. Like, we had a blocking dummy we built out of an army bag, those army duffel bags. We had that tied around the tree to hit every day. And you know, I just grew up training a lot, you know, always working out to try to, you know, because I was always in love with sports. So I knew I'd end up somewhere in that world, which I did, you know. So yeah, my childhood was phenomenal. My dad's like my hero, my best friend, you know.
What sports did you play other than karate and football?
Well, I was football. I played basketball in middle school. The middle schools in New Orleans, Catholic schools, don't have contact football, but when you get into high school, I started in 9th grade. So in high school, I did basketball, football, track, shot put and discus, and then also powerlifting and some wrestling, but it was too much. The rest, actually, the real mat wrestling, the school I was at was state champions every year. And those guys were like Vision Quest, like psycho crazy. The coach Charbonneau was like a nut. So I actually didn't want to do real wrestling because it was so strenuous and physically demanding, making weight and all. So, but I mean, I pretty much tried everything, you know. But football was football was my first love, I always said.
And Mid-South Wrestling, I guess, would have been popular in New Orleans. Did you know about it at all when you
I watched as a child. It was on Saturday mornings. Yeah, Saturday mornings would have Mid-South and the Godzilla shows, because that's when they had the cartoons, but not many.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I did watch Mid-South Wrestling as a child.
Did you have any favorites at that time?
I mean, I didn't have a favorite in that. I mean, I remember missing Link and Hacksaw and those guys. Actually, as I grew up and started watching wrestling more in high school and college, I always liked Sid Justice, because he looked so scary and he looked I mean, you didn't question that guy's sanity and if he could kill you, you know. So. Did
you ever get to meet him in later years?
I did. I did the Juggalos show, The Gathering.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of that.
Oh, yeah, I've heard
it's like 3 days out in the woods. It's cool. Bloody Mania, they call it.
Yeah.
Sid was at that when I worked for them, and it was insane because I was the opening match and everybody else was like WWE legends and Hall of Famers. It was nuts, man. Yeah, but I did meet him, and I think his son might have been there.
Yeah, his son was in Big Brother or something.
Yeah. I know he got messed up on that injury from WCW. I don't think he ever fully recovered when he broke his leg.
Yeah.
And he did that one-legged boot. because I believe that kind of slowed his whole deal down, man, because he
Yeah.
compound fractured his leg. So, yeah, but he's a big dude still, you know.
So when did you start realizing that you were an outstanding football player?
Well, in high school, my senior year in high school, things kind of fell into place. Because actually the original high school I went to was in Metairie, a suburb of New Orleans, but we had to move to New Orleans because my grandmother got sick. On my mom's side, we had to care for her. So the high school I ended up being in their district was Brother Martin, so I only went there 1 year. But when I went there, the coaches promoted me better, and I ended up making like all city, all district, and all Louisiana, and ended up getting signed with Mississippi State. Brother Martin High School was where I graduated. They just seemed to turn out a lot of players every year. They had parade All-Americans and guys end up at Michigan, Notre Dame. Some schools just seem to know how to develop talent and have rapport with colleges. So going to Brother Martin was the best thing I ever did moving. And then, we ended up, I made all those district teams in the league and city and state, and then I did my visits and I went to Mississippi State on a football scholarship.
What are some of your greatest accomplishments there?
In football?
In college football?
Oh, college? Well, let's see, man. I've always had crazy, stuff happen along the way to get to success. Because at State, I signed with Mississippi State mostly for the coach who was there. Coach Tom Good was my offensive line coach. He played for the Colts and he had a Super Bowl ring. He was offensive lineman, so he was like a dad, father figure hero. And after the first year, they fired him because we had a terrible season. So he left, but the first year I tore my MCL and was in a cast. And then the second spring that I was eligible for after being redshirted, I blew my knee out. So I was on crutches like a year, the first year and a half, 2 years there. So I ended up leaving because the coach I loved and the whole staff got fired, and ended up transferring to a 1AA school called Northeast Louisiana University in Monroe, which is, they had won a national championship and one conference championship. So that was where I did really well. I made all conference, all Southland Conference, and all academic, all Louisiana, and I had a lot of success there, you know.
And you ended up having some experience with the Washington Redskins. How did
Yes.
that come about?
When I came out eligible for the draft, when I got done with college, I was working out for all the teams that would come through, and I didn't get drafted, so they signed me a free agent, and that was the year that they had won the Super Bowl. But the team was really loaded, and going up there, I really, you kind of think you're pretty tough and all, and it was like a huge reality check going up to the Redskins with the Hogs.
Yeah.
I always say, I really wasn't mentally or physically ready like I thought I was. It was like shell shock because I got cut and I didn't perform well. It was the worst I'd ever performed, and it was like a big disappointment, but I think it had to happen for me to advance, because after that, I went to the Saints, the Falcons, and then pursued football for like 8 or 9 more years, trying to get to the NFL. So, those failures happen and you grow, right? Through them, injuries and whatnot. Stuff that you can't see when it happens, it ends up, being something that's good.
Was Goldberg in the Falcons at the time?
Yeah, 94, he was, yeah.
Did you know him at all?
Yes, yeah, we used to go, he was a D lineman and I was offense, so we used to headbutt, going against each other in drills.
Yeah.
And he was a tough guy, really good football player. He bounced around several NFL teams. He had a lot of injury, I know shoulder and injury problems that slowed him down, but he was tough, as tough as they come, and a really good guy.
What do you think of him coming back to wrestling now?
I think it's great, man. He's always been super nice, down to earth guy, and I think he's good for wrestling. His character, and he's always represented himself in wrestling well. I've never seen or heard of anything negative from him, and I love him as a personal friend and a guy. It's good to see him do so well.
Do you think he's going to stick around for a while after WrestleMania?
Well, they say he wants to wrestle with has a young son, and if that's a big deal, I think he will, and he looks in tremendous shape, and he obviously doesn't have too many injury problems, so yeah, I could see him staying for a few more years,
And you also ended up in the CFL. We're from Canada, of course, so I guess that was at the time when they had American teams.
Yeah, which, I tell people I was in the CFL, and I tell them I played in America, they're like, wait, how'd that happen? Well, like you say, 94, 95, they expanded to the States. and Atlanta released me in '94, and the Shreveport Pirates team picked me up instantly. So I went there and signed a 2-year deal. Started, I forget, I think they played 18 games maybe. Ended up starting 10 games one year and 18 the next. And I got a lot of experience, and I had a tremendous honor there. Our head coach was Forrest Gregg, who's in the NFL Hall of Fame. He played for Vince Lombardi, and he's an offensive lineman, so that was a tremendous experience. I was there 2 years, and then '95 I left there and went, actually moved to arena football in '96, which I always said the beating money ratio is not good because you get really beat up. It's indoor turf and you play both ways. I moved on. I don't know if you have questions in that, but I moved on to NFL Europe arena and then tried back with the NFL, and then ended up going into wrestling.
Who did you play for in NFL Europe?
Frankfurt Galaxy. Okay. Yeah.
What's the popularity of football like?
The only teams, the teams that draw are Germany, and I think it's just 'cause they go out there and they have the beer garden, they drink so much, they just get fired up. I don't think they understand it, but they're doing soccer chants. There's like 50,000. Frankfurt, I think the teams ended up in Frankfurt, Rhein, and Dusseldorf. The other countries, football to them is soccer. It's not, and a lot of them don't even understand American football because soccer's been around for forever, and they take that stuff serious, man. Those people end up wanting to have riots and fights. The towns are really, they don't like each other.
Speaking of fights, I read that you were in a couple of fights when you were in the CFL. Is that true?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was always real passionate. It was bad because it wasn't good to lose your control, get penalties and whatnot. But yeah, coming out of martial arts, was raised to have a fighting spirit, and you should always control that, play within the rules, and don't try to be dirty, which I never was. But actually in New Orleans, when I went to the Saints after being cut from the Redskins, I swore that when I went there, I would not go out there with my tail between my legs. I would go out there and leave my mark, whether I made a team or not. And I started the first fighting camp, just to let people know. I mean, and I got in a fight with Ronaldo Turnbull, who made the Pro Bowl that year, and all the local media was wanting to see me make the practice squad, So I started fighting there actually. And even in college, but in the CFL, I got kicked out a couple of games actually, and it cost me fines and stuff. But the fans loved it, because they'd be on the jumbotron and they'd be chanting Heidenreich, So it was good and bad,
What were the groupies like for you in football? Is there some pretty crazy stories out there?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess every group of groupies has the names, I think that maybe cleat chases might have been used, but I always had girlfriends, man. I was never into that deal. They always have girls that like a rock and roll star or a wrestler or an actor or a football player, just depending on wherever they fall into that category. And there's always guys that are willing to give them attention,
Yeah.
So.
And how did you end up getting into pro wrestling out of football?
Well, I mean, Goldberg was a big influence because I played with him. But actually, when I was in Shreveport, one night after a game, WCW was in town, and I met Buff Bagwell at a bar. I was drinking. It was after the game, so I was having fun. We got to talking, and we were like hanging out, shooting the breeze. And he told me that you're a big dude and you have a lot of character. You're nuts. So he recommended I maybe try it. And I'd always liked wrestling, and then The Rock there's a lot of wrestlers with football backgrounds, so I started contemplating it when like '97 I got out of NFL Europe, and I went back to arena ball in '98 in Portland, and I was really beat up, not making much money, and I was in New Orleans bouncing actually at the time, trying to get re-signed with the Saints because it was right there and nothing was working out. They were like, you're too old, you're 28, 29, you've been out of the league 3 years, we're gonna go get a young kid out of college for free agent. Yeah. So the door kind of closed, and I actually saw a program on, I don't know if, it wasn't a Learning Channel because they did a documentary on me, but it was another channel that had a documentary, and I think Cena was in it, and it was of UPW in California.
Okay. I think I've seen that documentary.
Yeah, and that sparked my interest, and an attorney buddy of mine who's an Italian guy who had the money to fly us out there to go meet UPW for a weekend. I went out there and met him, and really liked the guys out there, and I ended up moving out there. I planned for a couple months, saved up like $1,500, loaded up my car, and moved to California to go to their school. That's how it all ended up happening. Like, it had always been there in the back of my mind, being in martial arts and football, and with Goldberg as a friend, and by then he was God. I mean, WCW and WWF, that was the hottest time in the 90s, right? Man, it was like, so seeing him, that definitely, watered the seeds that were in my head of thinking about it. But I went to California with I loaded up my rodeo with $1,500. My dad didn't want me to go because he's like, don't wrestling, it's like, you need to go coach football or, get into something, But I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. And I had a girlfriend that loaned me some money also. She supported me, and then I ended up moving out there and stayed with one of the guys at UPW, Big Schwag, who was an announcer, actor guy. And I had an apartment come open. It was I call it Gilligan's Island. It was an old hotel with the pool in the middle and the upstairs, downstairs in Studio City. And believe it or not, it was $600 a month for an efficiency. Basically like this hotel room. Yeah. But one of the guys that lived there was an older guy, ended up passing away, and I had that come open. So I moved in there, put down money on that. I actually had no electricity for a little while, no furniture, but I slept on the floor. But the first day I got to LA, I got bouncing jobs on Sunset, so I had income. I just had to save up a little money to buy rental furniture, electricity, and then pay for school, But that's how that all started working, and I was bouncing, paying for the school, and then Bruce Pritchard came down, Dr. Tom would come down, JR, Paul Bearer.
Because there was a deal with UPW.
Yeah, UPW right? was developmental at the time. Okay. Yeah, it was like an entry level. So it was like, single A baseball,
Because John Cena would have been there.
Cena was there, a ton of people, man.
Did you get along with John at that point?
Yeah. He was a prototype.
Could you tell that he was going to be a big star?
Well, man, when I went to visit that weekend, I walked into the school and he was in the ring, and I was like, man, this dude looks like the Terminator in the ring. Because back then he was bigger than he is now, believe it or not, because he was a college ball player and bodybuilder working at Gold's Gym and wrestling. But John's a genetic freak, number one. Some people are gifted with size. That guy just has a freaky amount of muscle. That's just some people God touches and say, you're gonna be a cancer doctor, you're gonna be a wrestler, you're gonna be Heidenreich, but he was one of the first guys I saw, and you could just tell that guy had, everything. Yeah. And I was out there with him probably a year. I got signed pretty quick, because I was a big guy and I worked hard. They told me, they said, just drop weight, because I was like 310 from football, so I got down to like 247 or 250. I got ripped because I was going to the gym, and the bodybuilders were all like trying to help me. They told me how to eat. Once you change your diet and do it, you can get lean. It's just a matter of doing it.
What are some of the tricks for anyone watching that wants to lose some weight?
Diet?
Yeah.
Well,
for getting lean.
Well, first of all, everything's on the internet if you want to find it. But I mean, number one, you can't be taking in more calories than you're burning, because if you do that, your body's gonna store fat. Number one, so you gotta understand how much, figure out what you're doing each day and how many calories you're burning as to what you're eating. And then it's what you eat, eating the right carbohydrates. Most people have the pyramid all screwed up. There's too many carbs, and they're not like vegetables, sweet potatoes, the brown rice, and the brown bread, even though bread should be restricted, carbs. You want to find out how many carbs you need to function with, because your body likes fats, number one, carbs second. So if you restrict your carbs, the fat that's stored in your body goes to that. That's getting in ketosis. You can get pea sticks at the pharmacy, and then if you can restrict your carbohydrate intake, you can find out when you're in ketosis. And once you're in ketosis, if you have 30 pounds of body fat or 40 or 50, you can drop that in a ridiculously quick amount of time, because your body takes the fat that's stored in you and it uses that for energy, which it needs to run. So that's what I did, and those guys just helped me. And it basically the good carbs are all the vegetables, sweet potatoes, yams, no white bread, not too much bread. Stay away from a lot of dairy, and eat lean protein. I mean, fish is the best. And then how you prepare it. I mean, bake it, to cook it clean. You don't want to put gravy or butter all over it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty simple. But yeah, that helped me drop quick. Because when you lose body fat, all the muscles that are there, you see, and it just creates the illusion of, oh my God, all the muscles are there. But when you get under 10%, that's when everything starts showing, and you're like, oh my God, but that was all there. It was just covered. And then as you develop more muscle by eating more protein, that's when the freakiness comes. But yeah, I dropped the weight, and they signed me to the developmental, and that helped out a ton. It was $500 a week, which means I didn't have to bounce but a couple of days instead of bouncing every day,
Yeah.
Because they did that.
Stay in LA at that time?
Yeah. Well, they did that for guys that look like they may be potentially guys that may make them some money. It was just an investment,
Yeah.
I started there, and then back then.
Before you leave there, Nathan Jones was also there at that time.
Yes,
he
was.
Stories about him because he's crazy.
Nathan is, well, first and foremost, he's a tremendously awesome, wonderful person. I mean, there's nothing evil in him or anything bad. He's just so big and strong. I mean, I was in the NFL, which is some of the biggest, strongest guys in the world. He came out of the world strongman, and he's also 6'10", and I mean, I've never seen anybody lift that amount of weight with that type of height, I mean, just insane. I mean, he could throw me across the ring, and I was, it made me feel like a small person. But no, he was tremendous. We were a tag team, down the line, but Nathan, he's one, there's only one Nathan Jones on the planet, But nothing but good stories about Nathan, and like Cena was there, Victoria. There's a ton of guys that ended up getting signed and being good, really good wrestlers,
Was it Samoa Joe even?
Samoa Joe was there training me. Chris Daniels, the Prophet, remember him? He was training us. I'm getting forgetful of my old age, but man, there was a ton of guys there that were phenomenal. Smelly was a developmental guy. Mad Dog's brother who passed away. And then Chris Bell was the other brother who was a writer for WWE. He ended up doing the documentaries, Bigger, Faster, Stronger. Yeah. And then another one about the prescription drug companies. It's a whole it's the Bell boys, Yeah. They're great. But yeah, it was, man, UPW in Huntington Beach was awesome. It was in a like a UFC dojo. Yeah. We just used the ring. They had a ring that had a spring in it. They pulled that pin out and it allowed you to bump, Yeah. But it was like a 15, 16-foot vinyl ring, nothing fancy. The gym was mostly all the fighting bags, all those bags and mats for all that grappling. And they had another school in El Segundo that was basically an MMA dojo that they let us use wrestling. But
was it Rick Bassman running?
Yeah, Rick was the owner of that, and
what was he like?
He was cool. He started a lot of people's careers. I think he has background with Disney. Entertainment business, because see what he did with the wrestlers, he had an agency which was a talent agency, and he used all those big guys for all the roles that come up in Hollywood, which they always need big guys for bad guys, bouncers, whatever. They're not A-list guys, but you can make a living getting good money if you can do wrestling, which is basically stunts. You know how to do things without hurting somebody. That's even making yourself more chance to make a living if you don't make it in wrestling.
So they eventually called you up to Ohio Valley Wrestling?
Yeah. I'm trying to think how that went down. I think they told me I was going to be moved, and I had a month to get there, which is like going up to AA or AAA, probably AAA, because OVW was going to TV, because back then they actually had Puerto Rico too, I believe. They'd send guys.
IWA was,
They had like 3 different places. That's why I always said it was like AA, Single A, and AAA minor league baseball. That's what it was like, which is good, man, to get guys to get better, and not just having guys off the street trying to get them to go jump in the ring in front of 10,000 people in an arena is, not smart. So they had a way to funnel you in and prepare you.
Was it Bruce Pritchard that you were dealing with for talent?
Yeah, Bruce came in mostly in California, and JR and Paul Bearer came to watch me and Nathan's. We were a tag team. We were the Ultimate Army, me and him. And we wore camouflage army pants, and our first tag team match with the Ballard brothers, who were guys with hockey gimmicks. I believe they're from Canada.
Yeah.
We worked them, and
I've seen the video of it because there was a news story on you or something.
Yeah, the Learning Channel.
Yeah,
did the body slam, making of a pro wrestler. They had me and 4 or 5 other people in the UPW system. It was really awesome. But yeah.
Did you ever have any reconciliation with that girl that apparently you broke up with during that
Brandy,
time?
she's my best friend still.
Oh,
Yeah, it was just a hard time. Her sister had passed away with some type of brain hemorrhage thing out of the blue, you know, and they were like best friends, not only sisters, and that was rough for her. And I was gone, and you know.
So
it was hard
cool
at the time.
That they covered all that.
Yeah. Well, it was going on. It wasn't staged, you know. They wanted real stuff, and I didn't mind, you know. It wasn't drama. We didn't make anything up, you know.
Yeah.
It was the stuff I was going through. She wasn't evil or anything. People break up all the time, you know. That happens.
So for whatever reason, they decided to call you up shortly after that first match, then.
It wasn't long, man. Yeah. I was out there about a year, man, at the most, and I mean, I liked it out there because I had gotten some work with Rick getting me on auditions for commercials, and I fought Test in the 18 Wheels of Justice, was a television show where G. Gordon Liddy was in that. And they were like a police thing that rode around in the big 18 wheeler, but it was a surveillance deal, you know. And it was an underground fighting, illegal underground fighting episode, and I fought Test, and I got poisoned and killed, you know. I did a great dead guy. He said no one ever stayed that still. It was a joke. Laugh. I had this, they're like, you're not funny. Okay, sorry. My bad.
So what was it like when you switched to OVW?
Man, I tell you what, first week or two, I felt like I didn't know anything, and I felt like awkward, like, because right there was like Randy Orton's, you know, Nick Densmore. I mean, it was all guys that were really polished guys that had been wrestling 5-10 years, and I was a big guy, kind of crazy, so all of them were kind of lyrics. They didn't know if I was gonna hurt them. They're always worried about if a guy's polished, and because it's a lot of control involved in wrestling. If not, you can really injure somebody. So I had a rocky start. But
it was more political, I guess, there than UPW.
Yeah, because there was a lot more guys that were, you know, like Orton, guys that had families, you know, dads and family tradition, and guys that they had invested a lot more money in, and were probably getting ready to go to television. And then they also had the Cincinnati school where Les Thatcher ran.
Yeah, Heartland Wrestling or something.
Because like the Samoan boys were there, Matt and Eki, and the Haas brothers. A lot of good talent, and we'd worked some in between. So those guys were really far ahead of me in experience, you know. I had been doing wrestling about a year. But Jim Cornette and Danny Davis were really awesome to me, and Dr. Tom Pritchard was there a lot, and all of them treated me like family. And we had a lot of guys from WWE come in that had maybe injured or not working on TV that they were paying, so they'd send them down almost to help us train, you know. Yeah. So I learned a lot. Big Boss Man trained me, and I always had a lot of respect and affection for him because he was so nice to me. That's why I used to use a spinning bubble slam as a finish. Yeah. I never had much of a finish because I really didn't do a lot of matches that I won. I was always just beating people up and going crazy, you know, at WWE.
Yeah.
But Boss Man was really cool. I tagged with Bull Buchanan in OVW. I mean, I worked with all kind of guys that were like, you know, already established guys on TV where I learned a lot, you know.
Do you have any particular story about Jim Cornette that...
Oh man, there's a bunch. Yeah, I could tell some of them. They're not too bad. Yeah. The first time I worked on Ohio Valley Wrestling Television, that TV was actually it had like good ratings. It was watched a lot in that area. It was on the WB network. It would air on Saturday nights. We'd tape on Wednesdays. I was Big Bad John, and I was like an enforcer for a group of heels. And I did a run-in where I was going to beat somebody up. And basically they'd already been beat up by people in my group, but I was just supposed to just lay it on them. Yeah. And I guess, you know, I was nervous. It might have been my first time on TV, and gym, you know, that building, the original OVW training center was like in 100-year-old building, you know, literally. It was like not much bigger than this room.
Yeah.
But that was like a lot of tradition. But he asked me to come out in the back of the building, and his car was there, and he's like, when you run out there to do a beat down on somebody, you know, and he was mad at me, but he was passionate, you know. He says, you gotta really you gotta make it look real. And he started kicking his car, like with his shoes, like in the front, all the bumper and plastic. You know, he's like, and you know, you gotta make it look real, especially as big as you are. You know, if you do anything that looks bad or not believable, it's over amplified because you're already big, you know. So he went off on me that way, but it was love, you know.
He was damaging his own car. He was so passionate.
Yeah. Cornette would tear up a lot of stuff. He lives and breathes wrestling, and you gotta respect that man. You know, he's always been really good to me, and I think he's developed so many good people. And I mean, he loves what he does, and he's passionate, and you can't fault somebody for that.
Was Brock Lesnar in OVW around that time too?
Yes, he was. Him and Shelton were the Minnesota stretch crew.
Yeah.
Because they were both collegiate guys.
Yeah.
From Minnesota. And I worked with him one time, and I always tell the story. He did me a belly to back suplex, which I've taken before, but I've never had somebody actually just pick me up, you know, literally, and like hold me. It felt like a roller coaster, you know, when you're at the top going click, 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 click. When he hooked me and went up, it was like, it felt slow motion, like that's how strong he was. It was like click, 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 and like I paused right there when he had me up. I'm like, oh God, I think I'm about to break my neck or my back. And it was a perfect bump because I mean he laid me down flat, but I never had been picked up like that. Being a big guy, that's just, you know, he's a freak like Cena in his own way, but even bigger and more genetically gifted and just, you know, he's a monster, you know.
How was he outside the ring?
I wasn't as close with him because he was way ahead of me, you know.
Right.
He was head of the ring crew at that time. He was kind of like the alpha male of OVW, you know.
Yeah.
But no, he was never rude or mean to me. He was more like outdoorsman, hunting guy and stuff, which I'm from the city, so I'm not a big hunter. I mean, I'm an animal lover. I got cats and dogs, so. But I mean, I didn't have any heat or anything with him. He was just, you know, he was getting ready. I mean, everybody knew he was going to be a big impact in WWE, you know, because he had all the tools, you know, the skill set, you know, college wrestler and that background and that look, you know, so yeah.
Was Batista around too?
Dave was there too, and that's another freak. That's another guy that's like, where did he come from? What planet? Like Superman or something. Yeah, he was Leviathan, Demon of the Deep. I never wrestled him because he was a heel, you know.
Yeah.
But
were you friends with him at all?
Dave we actually were pretty friendly. We used to ride sometimes to the shows because we did house shows and all. And I knew his wife, and he had daughters from a previous marriage. So yeah, I used to do stuff with him. They used to train at the same gym. So Dave's a lot more mild mannered, laid back guy out of the ring, you know. Brock's a lot more intense, but I think that's, you know, his background and probably wrestling.
I heard Dave did get in a fight once in OVW though, didn't he?
Trying to remember. I don't. Is that the Booker T deal?
No, it was something else. I heard about the Booker T deal.
Yeah.
I forget the guy's name. The guy died since they got in the fight with him.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
I don't know if it may have been before me, you know.
Yeah.
But Dave was always really mild mannered to me, you know.
Yeah. He seemed like a nice guy.
Yeah, he was very laid back, you know.
And so when did you actually get called up to WWE? You were part of obviously probably one of the best OVW classes of all time.
Man, like I said, that place was loaded back then. It was all first rounders. I actually, I think it might have been 2002 or 3 maybe in OVW after the 2000 and 2001 in California. I actually was moving along and progressing, and you would get a call and say, hey, we're going to put you on the roads to allow you to do house shows and maybe darks, which means you didn't have a character actually was going to be introduced on television, but they were kind of seeing where you were. And we were actually practicing at the old arena one day, practicing monkey flips. Oh my God. and I've never taken one or given one. But everybody had to, you had these drills you had to do to learn. And
they're not made for people your size.
and Sean O'Hare was giving me the monkey flip, another big guy.
Yeah.
And I was taking it, and I wasn't going to say no, I won't want to try it, or I want to really understand the concept of the move, which he should always do. Because every time I tried a move that I'd never done and didn't say anything, I ended up getting hurt or near disaster. But he ended up flipping me over and kind of bumped and didn't really help me get all the way over, so I ended up landing on the shoulder, separated my shoulder. Had 4 operations that got released. So that was actually the first time I was going to be put on TV. That was probably 02 maybe.
So you were actually released from the
Yeah, I was released, and then I went to Japan 01 for probably 6 or 8 months, doing tours every month or 2.
Bassman had contact
Yeah.
at the time.
And
what was that like in Japan?
it's a different world, brother. Japanese is, to me, it's full contact. There's not much work there, and I don't understand. There's a little different style or a different formula. You don't sell as much, especially a big guy. They're like, no sell. You just, I get mad. I'm like, what's the point of being some guy beating me up? And if I don't act like it hurts, when it does hurt, you know? It's just a different style. Japan's different. It's a lot more violent, and the Japanese wrestling is more like straight sport. It's still reported on the newspapers like it's real. The kayfabe is still kayfabe, and it was a learning experience. Me and Nathan tagged over there also. We won the NWA International Tag Belts for a little while, but I got to wrestle against Hashimoto and Ogawa, who were awesome, Otai and Tanaka. But Japan's a long flight, and the food's weird, and it's just a different world, So that wasn't my favorite place to go and wrestle, but it was a learning experience. And then they re-signed me because I was doing really well over there. And
were you living in a dojo there or something?
No, we'd go over 2 or 3 weeks at a time. Yeah, 01 and just do 4, 6, 8, 10 shows or whatever, and then come back.
So they called you up, I guess.
They said, don't sign anything long with them. They said, we're going to bring you back. So I was like, well, that's awesome, because I don't want to be in Japan, And
how was the money for 01?
It was good, yeah. For a guy that really never had any WWE TV, I was making a few thousand a tour, which is a lot of money. And because overseas tours, you don't incur hardly any cost. They fly you there, they drive you, they feed you, or they give you per diem. So you actually end up spending little or no money if you're really smart. Just don't get carried away with phone calls,
Yeah.
Back then they didn't have these international plans. Because one tour I thought I had an international rate, and I ran up. Whatever I made that tour, I spent on my phone bill. I was like, okay, that's really smart.
And that was before you could get internet on your phone too.
Yeah. But anyway.
They gave you that gimmick when you first came, I guess, with the doll or something.
Yeah, Little Johnny was on Raw. Yeah, I started with Stone Cold, and that was actually my idea, because I'm a writer. I've been writing since college, poetry, stories, lyrics, and poems, and just I was an artist as a kid. I liked drawing and building models. So as part of my creative side, I just said I always got so big in being in sports. I used to play guitar.
Who would you have talked to about that idea?
Little Johnny?
Yeah.
Well, I presented it to him, and we started doing it. I was sending in all my ideas through Chris Bell into the creative,
Okay.
Because I didn't want somebody writing something for me. I'd rather present something that's really in me. I had a lot of ideas I shot in. But the Little Johnny, I was teased as a child. This is a real, being a big kid, I was teased heavily, 1st through 6th grade and 7th. First to middle school, the 8th grade. Went to high school where I kind of grew out of the baby fat, insecure, self-esteem bad guy. And I got teased a lot in the 7th and 8th grade by these 3 guys. And one day after school, they were messing with me. I was waiting for my dad to pick me up. And I just kind of snapped on them and beat them up. Well, Little Johnny was like that was my inner child that had been made to feel ugly for so much of my life, which I felt a lot of kids could relate, or people, whatever. So Little Johnny, I had a doll that I would talk to, because he would tell me to go get people, and I was gonna make him pay for making me feel ugly and fat and whatnot. Fatty 2x4. This is all real stuff I use in that story, which they just never really let it materialize, because we did the Little Johnny thing for a while, and it was getting over because everybody would ask, what is Little Johnny? They kind of went around Vince and WWE always does kind of the dirty deal with it.
So, working with Stone Cold, who was the one that told you you'd be doing that character with Stone Cold?
Let me think. Well, they put me on the road, and I was traveling with Renee, Rob Conway, Garrison, Cade on Raw, and doing house shows.
Renee Dupree?
Yeah, and dark matches. And I'm trying to remember how they presented that, man. It was in Chicago. Stone Cold had gotten kicked out of the arena. I think Bischoff had put him out the building. And I was standing outside, and excuse me, the gist was like, I went up to talk to him as a starstruck fan, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, Stone Cold, I mean, my dream is to try to make it in wrestling, you know? And I was like, I bought a ticket to come to the show tonight. He's like, oh, you have a ticket? He's like, come over here, let me talk to you. So basically, he sweet talked me and getting my ticket to get back in. And the next week, I don't actually remember who gave the idea.
Were you excited? Because he was just coming off his big run.
Yeah, man. Well, Stone Cold's one of my favorites, and that was Raw, so it's live, man. It's like, you know, stress, bro. You know, like, okay, we're going live. Don't screw this up. And the next week, we did another backstage deal where I gave him the tape to try to look at, petition for a chance, you know. And then I think the following week, I got my tryout match, I think from him or the general manager, with Hurricane against La Resistance, and it was in a military town, like, I forget where it was, where they have an army base. It was all military around, and it was cool because La Resistance was hated, you know?
Yeah.
And we beat them up, and I went and got the American flag, you know, and everybody was happy, so it was awesome debut, you know? With the you know, that was John Heidenreich, actually. Yeah. I didn't have any intro music. I had some generic stuff that Paul Heyman's like, that's terrible, we got to change that. And they made that Heidenreich song, which was killer. But
Heyman was a writer back then?
Yeah. Well, when I went to SmackDown, he was like, when they reinvented me, he was like, we're gonna get rid of this old John Heidenreich thing, you know.
So what happened, like, with that? First of all, you had this gimmick. And
I wrestled them, and I actually did a mixed tag with me and Trish against Victoria and Stevie Richards. That match went well. That was on Raw, and we won. And then I'm trying to think, I did several things with Hurricane. You know, backstage, things that were funny.
Like they were going to push you.
Yeah, Hurricane with Rosie. Remember, he was the reporter guy, you know? Because he was a superhero in training, which we won't say what it stands for, but...
Yeah.
Right? But, and actually what happened, I actually remember I injured my quad. I got a hematoma, and this sounds crazy, because normally it's a thigh bruise from, like, something hitting you. Pretty violent impact, which forms, it can be really bad, you know.
Yeah.
I actually went, I was in a match with Hurricane, I think maybe, or something, and I went to go over the top rope, and my leg just, as I went over, I got like stuck and didn't go completely, and I just rolled down the rope on my thigh, and believe it or not, that force of that rope ended up, by the end of that show that night, I couldn't walk. My leg is swollen. I thought I had broke my leg. It hurt so bad.
Because for people that don't know, it hurts even just hitting the ropes.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, you got to develop all your body parts to take that impact. You know, that was just this example of when you hit that rope wrong. It basically gave me like a hematoma, like you get in football from a guy hitting you with his helmet.
Yeah.
Because I had to. I mean, that's what ended my push right there, because I couldn't walk. I had to go to therapy at Tulane Rehab, Tulane University. And that was like 4 weeks. I couldn't walk for like 2 weeks. You know, my legs swole. They took extras because it wasn't broken, but I was unable to wrestle. I couldn't bend my leg. So that, man, I was very frustrated, because I was like, oh my God, I hope they don't fire me, you know. I don't want to be gone very long, because it's just not good in wrestling to be getting paid and not being productive. But anyway, that ended that little Johnny thing, because I mean, I had done a lot of vignettes, like stuff with Trish Stratus, where when Jericho and her were doing a deal where she's like, oh, don't worry about, he's like, yeah, Heidenreich's crazy, man, you shouldn't trust that guy. She's like, oh, don't worry about little Johnny. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, he showed me little Johnny, you know, like, he's like, that's wonky, man, that guy, you know. So the thing was getting, we were getting vignettes and in-ring stuff with that, but that injury was what, you know, sidelined that. And then I was off for about a month, went back to OVW, and then the call came from SmackDown. It said, you're going to be with Heyman, get red boots, red tights, and red gloves, and they wanted me to have short boots like Goldberg, you know. And that wasn't long after that deal, several months, and then I did that gimmick, and I guess the rest is history,
How did you like working with Heyman on camera?
Oh, I loved it. He was great back. I mean, off stage and in ring and on camera. He was very helpful. The guy's got a lot of knowledge. You hear a lot of mixed things about Paul, but I mean, because you don't know somebody, so you only hear what other people say.
Yeah.
But meeting him, working with him, he was tremendous to me. He helped me, and I mean, the guys he's worked with are all great top guys, man. So I looked at it as an honor just to be with him, And
what was the best advice he gave you that you can remember?
well, I guess I can say that. The first match that I interfered was the JBL Undertaker Hearst match.
Yeah.
I was in the casket waiting to jump the Undertaker.
Yeah.
I was in there waiting. He goes, John, get ready, man. Your point's coming. But he goes, get ready because you're about to be swimming with the sharks.
Yeah.
Meaning, wrestling is a cutthroat business. It's very competitive. Just basically, hey, you gotta look at it as a very competitive business, which is gonna promote people to do any and everything to make it because the stakes are high. Which was, that's good advice, man. You're not being negative. You're just being honest, man. You just, and he had a lot of advice like that. He always told me, man. He's like, no one knows if you're really crazy or not, but a lot of people think you're really hard. And he's like, just keep going with that, because that's good. Because if they don't know really if you're nuts or not, they kind of keep their distance, and that way they don't. If guys know you too much, sometimes it's bad because they'll befriend you and you'll think they're your friend, and maybe they have a motive. Well, they think maybe I could get his spot or whatnot. Unfortunately, it's not all fair. But yeah, it's not all fair. Life's not fair, and not everybody's out to see everybody else do well. So that he was very good with that. Because I came out of football, and football there was a camaraderie. You would never think of doing anything to a fellow offensive lineman other than help him or anybody on your team. I mean, if a guy beats you out, he was better than you, Yeah. And in wrestling is a lot of, it's jealousy because, man, you're becoming a star, Yeah. And a lot of guys have put in more time than some guys, and you get a break for whatever reason. And hey, it's understandable. Guys like, man, I should have that spot. I mean, I had guys make me feel bad, and I'd go talk to Fit and all that. Like they're just doing that because they've been here longer, and just understand them and don't react to it. It's just part of a competitive alpha male type of deal.
Were you excited when you first found out you're going to be feuding with the Undertaker?
Oh man, yeah, I was more than that. Yeah, I was like speechless and just, nervous, excited, and everything, man. But he's such a tremendous wrestler in person. It was like a blessing being with him. He's the ultimate professional. If you can't go in there and wrestle with him and do well, there's something wrong with you because he's the best, and the best guys take a new guy who has talent and the right attitude, and they can mold you, in ring. Because you can't learn by doing drills. You learn, but it's like on the job training in the ring in front of 10,000 when the stakes are high. That's how you learn. And you have a good or a great or one of the best teachers like that to help you, hold your hand, even though they're beating you up, they're still holding your hand because that's the art of the business. Two guys working together to compete. We're not competing in points, but we're competing at a high level to entertain people, to suspend the disbelief that this is not real. Like when you go to a movie and you see The Matrix, they're not flying around, but that movie takes you away. That's what we do as wrestlers, That's the beauty and the art. When you get in there with Undertaker, and Goldberg said this, we suspend, the disbelief that, well, this is fake. But if you can go to a match and be like, in the match, you're like, man, this is real, That's where the magic is, and that's how people come. And that's what The Undertaker did for me. And a lot of guys did, They fit Finley, and they all taught me. And, it's still, I still can't believe that I worked The Undertaker. That's how it is, man. And I think the world of him. He's this amazing person. And to be doing it as long as he has, I don't see how he still walks. Because I was in it 12 or 13, 14 years, and from what I did to myself in football, right now at almost 48, I have serious health issues, man. I'm beat up. Some days I can't walk without a cane, my left knee, they pay a price. Any athlete that goes professional in any sport, you're sacrificing, So I guess I get kind of carried away with the Undertaker thing because I'm really fired up about working him.
Yeah.
It was, I mean.
What did you think of that casket match you had at the Royal Rumble with him?
Oh, it was great. It was cool because I actually had like a deep-seated inner fear for caskets, and it comes out of something horrific that happened to me, but it was something that I drew off of that made it real. My brother was murdered when I was in high school, and that's what my fear of caskets really came from. And I told Stephanie and them, I said, I don't know if this is too morbid or too far to go, but this is really where it comes from. That's why I draw into that. Like, I hate caskets because I think of seeing, my brother in that. And that was, I mean, I think that's what made it so believable because it came from somewhere real. And
was it a random murder, or was it?
Well, my brother wasn't doing the smartest and best things drug-wise, and the people you befriend in that world aren't always your friends because they're not functioning with an optimal level brain. He was involved with heroin and stuff, and it was a tragedy, man. But I mean, that's where the fear of caskets come from. And I mean, and it's like, well, why would you? I think anybody has a fear of a casket to be put in one before you're dead. I mean, if you're dead, it's okay, unless you want to be cremated. But I'm claustrophobic, number one. There's no room in the casket, and they used to mess with me because we did the casket matches at some house shows and overseas to work on it before we did it. And I'd put a bottle of water in there to try to have because I'd be blowed up from wrestling.
Yeah.
And they'd take it out, and then they'd sit on the thing when they roll it back in the back and not let me out. And I'd be like, if you're claustrophobic, that's like, you're like flipping out.
Yeah.
But it was just ribbing, But but it wasn't to me when I'm in the casket, because there's not a lot of room. It wasn't like some of the caskets they had. Some of his matches were bigger and more elaborate and ornate.
Yeah,
Mine was just like the dang generic version, metal.
Wow. And is it true at one point they were thinking of having you and Snitsky team up against him?
I don't know if it's for sure, but me and Snitsky worked Kane and The Undertaker at the Hawaii house show and Alaska house shows. And I thought it seemed magic to me because me and Snitsky, I thought we had like a cool chemistry because he's nuts. Not my fault, and I'm writing poems, and he's like telling me it's gonna be okay, John, like two monster guys sitting there almost like two big children, and like at the Rumble, he came out, he came out to beat down The Undertaker, and then Kane came up and cleared it out, and I ended up losing. But I would have hoped, I never got to work WrestleMania. I did the Battle Royal, but I wanted to work The Undertaker. That'd have been the culmination of almost a whole year of two, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, then I interfered in two of the championship matches with Taker, and that would have been like, man, I was disappointed, needless to say, but that's their choice. But I think that would have been cool if we, me and Snitsky, we could have gone, I think, down the line and done a bunch of stuff, kind of like Kane and The Undertaker, But yeah, that was a rumor, and I think Randy started working The Undertaker at Mania in Los Angeles, and they worked they had tremendous matches. I mean, Randy's phenomenal. He can do a lot of stuff that I can't, but he can't act crazy and write poems. No, I'm just joking. Randy's phenomenal, but yeah. I
hope same size as The Undertaker, or closer to The Undertaker's size. Either you were like
I'm not
saying that wasn't a good feud.
No. Well, everything I've heard from fans and it's always been a lot of positive stuff. The feud I had with The Undertaker, and of course I love it because I was working him or wrestling him, and a lot of people said the things that happened in those matches. The things he did was out of respect and admiration. He was wanting to help me because he saw somebody with potential. You can tell by the way a top guy like that sells and does things for you, and that will elevate you from here to here. If you went out there and fought The Undertaker and you didn't beat him, but man, you pushed him that automatically brings me to another level, that's why I say I'm grateful for him. But I had so much fun with him, I mean, I don't know. You want me to share one actual match story with The Undertaker?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Because I get carried away. I'm like, am I talking too much?
No, people love hearing about The Undertaker.
It was, I think it was Italy, house show, okay, with me and The Undertaker. And I'm nervous. And The Undertaker, thank God I was trained at OVW where you learn how to work and you don't have to call everything out. because he told me, when you're upside down, it's over. You okay, kid? Basically, that's what we had. Basically, it's when you get the tombstone, it's over. That's all we talked about, right? Which I was like, oh God, but, you know.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm like, I know he'll take care of me, and he's that good. The match starts out. We do some chain wrestling, and I think I went to hit the rope to give him a tackle or something, and the top rope broke. So basically, we can't wrestle like, you know, the stuff you normally do. If the top rope's broken, you're not. The match is gone in your mind of what we were gonna do. And I just had the deer in the headlights look. I think he had fallen down, and he was like looking at me, and I was like frozen. He's like, kick my ass, beat the hell out of me, you know? It's easy now. But that was like DEFCON 50s, whatever. To start the match nervous and have the rope break. You know when a rope breaks, it's like ping, you know that sound. It's like, oh, F, you know, I don't want to cuss, but it's like, holy shit, what do we do now? But it was cool. We modified everything and had the match. But
and you wrestled them on tribute to the troops too. What's it like going was it Afghanistan at that time?
Yeah, that was a life-changing experience by far, man. Because my father was military, wanted me to go to Air Force Academy, wanted me to follow that, but I was just too nervous and didn't want to. But you know, wars are horrific. Any war that takes place is horrific. So many lives are killed and wasted. It's a shame that humanity has to resort to that, but they do happen, and you have to. I don't care if you hate wars or against America or terrorism or what, but the people that go there, they're football players and actors and teachers and football. I mean, I didn't mean to put teachers, but they get a lot of notoriety and fame. But a soldier gives the ultimate thing. He gives his life, you know. And going over there and meeting them and just being there for a few days, like anytime I meet a military or policeman or I thank them, number one, and I'm like, you know, you're the ultimate hero, you know. So that was like, it wasn't just a wrestling show, it was like a life-changing experience being there, you know, because it's dangerous everywhere over there, you know, the terrorism deal. So man, it was mind-blowing experience, 'cause it's dangerous, you know. Yeah. And me and Taker wrestled, and it also was like 30 degrees in the winter there, and it was January, December. I'm like, and in the summer it's like 100 and something. I'm like, well, that's bad. Maybe that's why there's such a uneasiness here with temperature extremes like that. Maybe, you know, but it was crazy. But
and you wrestled outside too.
Yeah, it was cold as heck, and
with no shirt.
I was supposed to bail out the ring and go nuts and run off through the crowd and, like, you know, and the soldiers wouldn't let me. They would not let me get out that ring. So it was a count out, you know. Yeah. But we had a good match, man. It was awesome. I mean, yeah, and just the troops, just the picture of all the soldiers and stuff, it was awesome. I felt like I did something to help support them and help them, because, you know, they're over there away from their families, and some of them don't make it home, you know. So it was cool. The USO is a good thing. Yeah.
And when was the decision made? I guess it wasn't too long after that they decided to turn you face.
Yeah. They rushed all that to me. They could have had me be a heel and work so many more guys and get better. I worked Booker T at a pay-per-view, which was fun. I got DQ'd, but working him I learned, you know. I mean, yeah, I didn't get to do enough stuff after that. Because, yeah, I remember the writers saying, man, you're getting over, your character is so cool and fun, and blah, blah, blah. And they said something like, wow, they were going to turn me baby. And I was like, it doesn't make any sense to me, but you're the boss, you know. I was like, people are loving the heel thing, you know. I was getting over in popularity for a heel in the heel way. I was just loving that, you know, being psychotic and crazy and poems and Heyman. But yeah, because not long after that I did the My Friends thing, you know. Yeah, I remember in Hershey, Pennsylvania, I had that big chocolate bar and stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
it was
like
funny.
Goofy, yeah.
How did the kids react when they had to do the stuff in the ring? Oh,
they were cool. I mean, I know one of them was an actual actor, which she was awesome, professional. But I mean, it was cool because kids are really, that's another amazing aspect of sports and wrestling. Kids, you know, it's like it's their holy grail of entertainment and fun. You know, that golden age for I guess a lot of boys. You know, from 6 to 10 or 12. You know, and they just it was cool. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The poems and all that stuff.
You wrote your own poems.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm a nut. I was an artist. My relatives built Mardi Gras floats, so I was in the art background as a child. You know, models, railroads, and I wanted to be a musician or a special effects artist until I got so big. I loved Elvis. I played guitar, you know, all that stuff. But that was just part of the creativity that came out, you know, and the character, which made it cool and different. I mean, how many big psychos write poetry and want friends?
How did you like your feud with Orlando Jordan?
It was okay. I think the big show said, man, they should have put the belt on you and brought some meaning to that, you know, because you were a baby, you were getting over. And he's like, you ought to go and tell him, hey, man, put the belt on me. But I didn't really feel comfortable doing that, you know. Yeah. And not knocking Orlando, because, I mean, he's a really good worker. I worked with him in Europe, and I didn't actually know how good he was, so I watched some of his matches as a heel. And I mean, I'm not talking about anything to do with him personally, because, you know, there's all type of rumors, but he's a heck of a wrestler, really athletic guy, not too big, you know, but I mean, really good worker. I just thought the feud with me and him, they could have done more with. Not saying I had to win or he did, they just didn't. We did that pay-per-view. Normally, if you want to do a pay-per-view, you want to do something with it to go somewhere, you know?
Because there was always the rumor he was gay or something, right? And then he later did gay character.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different background. I mean, wrestling is entertainment sports mixed with showbiz. So
now they have openly gay people.
Yeah, and I'm not. Hey, as long as you're consenting and it's an adult, I mean, that's your right I have no right to tell you how to live. You know, I'm not perfect, man. They say only God or whatever you believe. So, I mean, I know people that are gay or bi or, and I mean, I have nothing against them. I mean, as long as they're a good person, you know. But yeah, he's a great worker. That angle just didn't do much for anybody. It was like we worked and did a pay-per-view and nothing.
Did you have much contact with Chris Benoit when you were in WWE?
Well, he came to OVW. We took him out for his birthday, you know, and we had a really good time. And actually, I forget this. When I was married, I was raising a little boy, and I took Hayden to a house show in USL or a TV where I was gonna maybe do a dark.
Yeah. And
Hayden was there, like 6 years old, and I didn't really want to bring him, but he was begging me to go because I was new, and you know, you just don't want to bring you know. And Benoit I was new, and he didn't even know me, but he saw Hayden, got him in the ring, wrestled with him, gave him DVDs and T-shirts and everything. That made, like, for Hayden, he still talks, he's like 20-something now, but that was like phenomenal, you know. So I liked Chris a lot personally, and in the ring. I thought he was a tremendous worker. I don't know if we're going there with this question, but what allegedly transpired that night with him, I do not believe that story. I wholeheartedly, and I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories, but I think something else happened that night, and I don't believe that he killed his son or his wife or himself. Maybe I'm crazy, but I knew him too well, you know. I don't know if you were going there, but I guess I can say that.
It is it's the 10-year anniversary of that actually this year. So.
I will never believe that. I don't know what happened, but what was presented to us, I just don't believe that, you know. And maybe I'm biased because I knew him, you know, and maybe something horrific happened that night. But I can't see him as kind, as gentle as he was with my son. And I knew him when his other son, little Benoit, would come around, and this child was, I think, handicapped. I can't see him hurting that, or a woman, you know, and taking his own life.
Apparently his child, from what other people have said, that was just a rumor that the media bring out. His child was not actually handicapped. See,
I only knew little Benoit, which is his other son, and he came around the shows, you know. That's just my belief. Maybe I want to believe the best in everybody. But
so I'm not getting into conspiracy theories, but you think that something else may have happened.
I worked for WWE. I know the things that go on, you know. I mean, at any high level of any business, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of things that operate undercurrents and things that are going on that we always don't know about, but you find out working there. And you know, I have a story or an idea, a theory of what really happened. That to me fits what I believe. And I mean,
well, you can tell us the story if you want.
I don't want to, really. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
No, it's fine.
It involves, you know, the WWE
Yeah.
and things with the government that has been, the government's been investigating Vince for years about way he treats employees and things that go on up there. Letters were sent out to everybody at WWE after Benoit and Eddie, wanting people to give information if things were going on that were like not proper work environment, you know, the way they treated, you know, things that, you know, those things that went on that were really way far too stressful and too much pressure to put on somebody, you know,
which made them snap like that.
Yeah,
like the government sent those letters, or
the government. Well, Hogan was busted back in the day, and they wanted him. Hogan said it was all me, right, with the steroid deal, and the government. You know, there's been rumors of the way the WWE may operate with some situations with, I think, talent. And where they push guys too far, which they do. If you get hurt, both times I got hurt, I was fired, you know. Let's not beat around the bush. And that's with almost any guy. Because, I mean, if you're going to be paid, they want you to produce, you know. So it's a high-pressure, big money game, you know. There's no union and all that. That's another whole story, which makes it hard for us to have any bargaining power because they have thousands of kids that will give anything to be WWE wrestler, so you can always go pick another guy, you know. But
there's no competition anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm not trying to bash on Vince. He's a shrewd businessman. He's a genius in the right of where he's taken that business and the money he's made. But you know, that's stresses and forces that operate on somebody also with his decision making.
What was Vince like to you personally?
He was tremendous. See, that's like I come back with that. He was totally awesome with me. Gave me a great opportunity. We had a rapport I mean, I wasn't even nervous with him after I got to know him. Like, he'd be like, I want you to write a poem tonight. You want to read it? No, I know it's going to be good, you know? I mean, it was like he trusted me and he believed in me and he gave me a great chance. And I mean, I had done a vignette with him where I read him a poem and, you know, he gave me a really great opportunity, you know? So he's just, you know, he's a shrewd businessman and you know, he's taking care of himself and his business and his family, and you know, you have to understand his side. There's different sides and forces on every story, you know.
And you were doing pretty well as a singles babyface, and then they decided to start teaming you with Animal.
Yeah.
How did that all come about?
Man, it was like, I'm trying to think who brought me that idea. Maybe Triple H, I'm not sure. Triple H painted the skull face, the face paint, the second paint job. The first one was the butterfly effect, which they didn't like. And Triple H brought me into his locker room, painted that skull on me, and asked Vince to take everybody what they thought. So that was weird, you know. But
so he was in creative at that time.
Yeah. And I was excited, and I couldn't believe I was going to be part of Legion of Doom because I was a big fan, you know. Foot spikes and pads and all that. I was like, wow, you know, man, this is like too good to be true. And things progressed really well, and then, you know, it's like all of a sudden we were all released, you know, Animal, Christy Hemme and me first, you know. So they always run, I think they rush everything with guys and stories, and then guys are there and gone and another guy's coming in. For whatever reason, I just don't think it's smart. You invest in a guy, people get to like him, whether it's a girl or a guy or babyface or whoever, and then the next thing they're gone. So it'd be like changing characters in a sitcom or a TV show where all the characters are loved. The Walking Dead doesn't change all their storylines out every 3 months, you know. They have a continuity.
Did you have any particular match from your time with the Legion of Doom that really stood out to you?
Yeah, when we won the belts, man, Great American Bash. That was awesome.
That was from Eminem?
Yeah. And those guys are cool. Joey Mercury, and I knew Nitro from OVW, John Morrison or Hennigan, aka, and Melina, and we had Hemme with us. It was a cool deal, man. It was really awesome. I just wish we could have done it for 3, 6. We had the belts, so we dropped them in a ridiculous, goofy way. And Animal believes that was motivated by some other thing other than which made sense. Because a lot of stuff they do, it's like, why do they do this? I mean, you hear this all the time. And who knows? That's like you could ask a magic 8 ball and get a better answer than from me, you know?
Was Melina dating Batista at one point?
I think, well, that was alleged. See, I don't know that. I don't know. I mean, this is just a rumor that I think maybe they had an affair, Batista maybe with her.
Okay.
And I thought she
There
was.
was some heat involved.
Yeah, well, I think that she was dating either Mercury or Nitro.
I think it was Nitro.
Yeah, and it kind of sounded like she was unfaithful and cheated with Dave, or
there's nothing they could do because it was Dave or something.
Well, I mean, he didn't force himself on her. She's a grown woman. She obviously said, "Hey, it's cool with me," and made the decision that the person I'm in with, maybe they weren't exclusive of all these things they say now. I mean, if I'm dating somebody, I'm not gonna go sleep with somebody else. I've never done that numbers game. It's just not smart. But the thing is, up there, you're working together. You're on the road a lot. I mean, 16 shows a month, 280 days a year. You're around those people. That becomes, you're with them more than your family. So obviously relationships come out of that time, I wouldn't think it was the most smart idea, but it happens because you're around the people, it's like your family. It is your family. So people end up dating and going out,
And what did you like, how did you like working with William Regal and Paul Burchill?
Oh, that match was great. And in Finland, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe we worked them more. They're tremendous, man. Regal's a genius, okay? Like with things to do in a match and ideas that are just like, oh God, I would have never thought of that in a million years, Plus he's one of those type of workers that when he does something, it looks like he just broke. I mean, if he does some move on you, it looks like it would have maimed you, right?
Yeah.
Like Finley and Regal, yeah. And that Burchill guy, that guy was super athletic, man. I never understood. Did they do a pirate gimmick with him?
They ended up doing a pirate gimmick.
Which I think they get ideas. I think the Johnny
Ace.
No, the pirate movie that was so popular.
Oh, Pirates of
the Caribbean with Johnny Depp. I think that movie was popular, and they said, "Hey, let's try to do a character that and piggyback off of that." And that poor guy ended up getting stuck with that because that guy was a super athletic guy. I mean, had been wrestling, I think, in Europe, right, and came to America maybe to make it. I mean, he, obviously was sacrificing, and they stuck him with a goofy thing. It's just like a waste of that guy's ability,
And there's a whole bunch of stuff on the internet about you and Animal and something to do with $5,000.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to bring all that up because I'm trying to work with Animal now because I'm in desperate need of money, and Animal is a legend and he's in the Hall of Fame. And he
told me that you guys are.
It's all
you've finished it all.
Yeah, and
so
I mean
that's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. I mean, let me tell you, when I left WWE,
he did tell me to ask you one question. He said you'd be able to tell why that was broken up at that time better than he could.
The Legion of Doom tag team. Well, number one, when I first got fired by them, I blamed Vince. I was mad at it, but it wasn't my fault, As a younger, arrogant, brazen man that had made a lot of money, and my wife, I had marital problems, and I was also doing a lot of things I shouldn't have, because I was coping with stuff in the wrong way, drugs, and that had my mind not functioning on an optimal, smart level. To see that I had the biggest lottery ticket handed to me by WWE, and this started when it's not all my wife's fault, it's my fault, but that's what, she cheated. My wife and me were married, and I came home Christmas Eve, caught her in the bed with somebody else, and that opened the door to the chaos in me. By being hurt, I started going out and partying because we split up and I was hurt, and I was using drugs and alcohol. And at the same time, I had the biggest opportunity of my life with Undertaker and all these things happening. And little by little, I was losing control of myself, being late for shows, just, stupid, idiotic things. And it's terrible because I threw away a big opportunity. And that was going on even with Animal, Yeah, there was some money issues where I loaned him, but I mean, I was doing a lot of stuff that was impossible to deal with, Looking back now, I mean, I was very stupid. I mean, You know, I owe apologies to Vince, Undertaker, and every person that helped me while I was there, because they all put a little bit in to see me make it. Triple H, all those guys came and talked to me and said, hey man, you're screwing up, you know, you need to get a hold of it, you know. But they were saying, because you're coming late, you know, things are starting to fall apart in, you know, your world, and if you don't stop, you're going to be fired and you may never get back, you know. And that was the biggest thing, how I was handling stuff. It was my fault, you know. And the thing with Animal was disrespectful. A lot of the stuff that happened, because I was mad and angry and out of control, you know. And
did you think when you were behaving that way, that because Animal was Johnny Ace's brother, you might be protected a little bit? Since he was
Johnny Ace, me and him never had the best relationship. I always felt like he thought I was too old and didn't really. I don't think he didn't believe. It wasn't a Heidenreich person, you know.
Okay.
I mean, you have people that believe in you along the way in your life, and the people that maybe are not as big as a believer, you know. And you gotta make them believe. Like Triple H told me when I got fired the first time, and I was trying to get re-signed. I saw him at a show, and I said, "What's the best advice so I can get back?" He says, "Don't take no for an answer." I mean, you can't get any better than that. You know, if you want to make it in something, don't take no. I mean, you refuse to be. Don't say can't. I mean, if you keep persistently trying, you may not make it in one avenue, but you'll make it, you know. So yeah, what was your original question? Because I mean,
I was just wondering because Johnny Ace was head of talent relations at the time. You were teaming with his brother. If you thought maybe you could get away with a little more.
No. I thought Johnny Ace would be harder on me, you know, because when I did some stupid things and he came down on me. He's like, you know, we've given you a really big chance, you know. And I, you know, was late for things and stuff, and like, you know, like in Los Angeles WrestleMania, I was angry because I wasn't working the Undertaker. I did the Battle Royal. We had a night meeting at 10 o'clock for the Battle Royal, and I missed that because I was out all night and day partying in Los Angeles. That's stupid, you know. And in that Battle Royal, I was the featured guy. Like they had me. I didn't win it, but I had
you
a
were
big.
Be the guy.
Well, I did a lot of stuff. Yeah, I had all these cool. I was doing a George Animal Steel turnbuckle thing. I mean, I was like the featured character, and I mean, it's like, you know, just dumb. You know, I get the dumb award, you know, for some of the stuff I did. But no, I mean, Johnny's just, you know, he's all business, you know, and I think, you know, he fired me the first time, and I won him back and got re-signed. But you know, I mean, I always was kind of a loose cannon. I would. You know, they said you gotta watch your mouth because you're working on TV. I used to curse a lot because I'd get all into my character, and like in football, you know, and he used to be like, man, you can't do this. You're costing us money editing. It's not professional. Cursing in the ring or being, you know, just being honest. And no, I don't think he cut me any slack. I think, you know, you make mistakes, man. You look back and as you grow up and you realize, you can say, hey, man, that was all me. And you know, you just don't do that again, you know. After
your WWE run, you went to WWC Puerto Rico for a little while. I was there for a little bit of that time you were there. I know you had some issues with pay there, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, Carlos, his daddy, I think it was, I did a show, I might have did one show, it was $1,000, but the check he gave me was bad, you know.
Yeah, it was right at Christmas.
Yeah.
Too, right? Yeah.
But I mean, I left WWE. I was blessed. I got to work many years all over. I had so many people help me. Rikishi with NW. I mean, I went everywhere. The Canary Islands, all in Europe. I mean, I can't even remember.
You did the Hulkamania tour too, didn't you?
Yeah, man. I was in the ring with Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, man. You know.
What was that match like?
That was insane. Well, poor Hogan, man. That guy has destroyed his body for wrestling. His back was so bad, he couldn't even really finish the match. He shouldn't have been in there, but he was trying to perform. And
who was your partner for that one?
Well, we ran in his heels. I was a heel, and Flair and Hogan, we had 4 shows there.
Yeah.
The last 2 matches there, like the heels have to run in because Hogan can't even do a lot of Hogan stuff.
Okay.
And he just fired up on us, knocking us all out of the ring, you know. And you know, I ran in and he's like, come on, Heidenreich. I'm like, damn, he knows my name. I'm like, this is awesome, you know. I mean, Hogan was in Rocky movies, you know. He's like God to me. And Ric Flair chopped me when we did some promos to promote the tour. all the heels and babies sided off, like got in each side of the camera. And then when the babies left, Flair's like, I'm gonna start chopping you, like that's what I'm gonna do to Hogan, but don't sell it. Sell it like the crazy gimmick. So I got like 15 chops from Flair. And literally I felt like my chest was gonna break, But it was cool because everybody laughed because the insane gimmick looked cool.
Did you get to have any other contact with Hogan during that time?
No. I wrestled The Godfather one night, Eugene one night, and I'm trying to remember. I can't remember who I worked. Made Brutus Beefcake one night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been an amazing, insane ride. From football to wrestling, being all over the world. I mean, I did a movie in China with David Carradine before he died. One of his last movies. True Legend. Cool. It's Ya Wu Ping, the guy that did all the Matrix fight scenes. He's considered the godfather of the Chinese wire stuff. It's the Drunken Master. We got to do a fight scene in that. It was insane being in China for a month, and that's what wrestling is, just stunt work, So.
And did you do any other movies other than that?
Yeah, True Legend, and let me think. I actually got cast in the Big Show movie in New Orleans, Knucklehead. But they didn't want any other guys. I had a fight scene in that. And then there was another movie with Vinnie Jones, a prison fighting movie with a lot of UFC guys, but it got moved, the budget, through New Orleans, because New Orleans does a lot of filming. But no, I was on 18 Wheels of Justice. I did a couple commercials, the body slam thing. I'm probably forgetting something, man.
Did TNA ever talk to you at all after you were released?
The first time I was released, I talked to somebody, maybe, I can't remember who it was, about going up there and trying out, but they didn't act like they were too interested, because they were like, well, you can drive up here and we'll try to give you a match. I'm like, well, I'm going to Japan getting paid, like good money. I'm not going to drive all the way to wherever it is and not even be promised a match, and it just didn't seem make sense,
Yeah.
So it never really worked out.
Was that back for 01 Japan again after?
Yeah, that was when the first time I got released. I contacted TNA.
Did you ever go back to Japan after your second release?
No, I stayed in Canada, American Indies, Puerto Rico, and a lot in Europe. I really had good fortune with an Irish company working in Ireland, England. The NWE, the New Wrestling Evolution, out of Italy, they ran Spain.
Vampiro was part of that, right?
Yeah, in the beginning, but Kishi was basically the book over there. He brought in all ex-WWE guys and European guys, but that promotion was insane. We got to wrestle in Spain in the Plaza del Toros, which is the bull arenas, and some of them were like Gladiator with dirt and dust, and you can imagine going out to wrestle in that. It's like, I remember Gladiator picking up the dirt in his hand. I felt like I was in a movie with freaking.
You like wrestling in dirt, because I remember in Puerto Rico once there was like a rainstorm
in that baseball stadium, bro. Wasn't that insane? We were like 150 yards from the people. I was like, I don't think they could even see what we're doing out here, And I can't see y'all because all I have is fog right now.
Yeah.
No, I'm just.
And they gave you the belt from Carlito, and you
I think it
to his brother. I guess.
Yeah, I think it was crazy, man. It was so hot in Puerto Rico, huh? Dusty Rhodes was there. Dustin was there. Yeah, he's cool. He's a trip. That's a wild dude, man.
Are you married or anything now?
No. I have a girlfriend, but I'm not married. Don't think I'll try that again. People that do that over and over, they're like, they should get awards for that. It's like.
Well, for being stupid, maybe.
Yeah. Stone Cold told me, I was like, I mentioned him one time. I said, well, I'm going, separation, divorce. He's like, kid, I'm on my third one,
He can afford it.
Yeah. I think it was either him or Undertaker. They said, man, you haven't been around pro wrestling very long. If you have to have at least one divorce, you have to go to rehab one time, and then something else. Like you have to have been injured severely, almost like, and be released. That was all part of the process of being with WWE. So
what are you doing now? Like, what are you working at all?
I worked some indies, not much wrestling, some autographs. I had a lawn care business. I had a couple of businesses where I worked for myself, but I had 2 automobile wrecks that almost killed me, 18-wheeler, and another guy hit me head on. That's when they did MRIs and said, you really shouldn't wrestle anymore. So I've been pursuing other jobs, maybe some work in movies, just doing whatever job I could get, if it's a stand-in, whatever. because I missed a stand-in gig for the Expendables, if you can believe that. Dolph Lundgren needed a stand-in. They were shooting New Orleans, and stand-in gets paid like $350 a day. All you do is stand there when they adjust the lighting, you know. And I missed that because I didn't have the right number, and I would have met all the Expendables, and maybe I would have been Dolph Lundgren, like famous people. Well, I'm the same height, you know. I'm fatter now, but at that time I was about the same build. And a stand-in, if you become a stand-in for somebody, like that's like a good living, you know. And you're not even famous, so you don't have to be bothered, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I'm pursuing disability right now, which I've never wanted to do, but I really have a lot of issues where I'm trying to get it. But I want to be able to work and be creative. My goal is to write a book about Heidenreich's plight. That'll be my book. And I'm thinking about, I'm a writer. I'd like to do it in pictures and poems, as a little bit different spin, and some writing, but to show my story from a child and how my life's progressed. And I like to be an inspirational. At the beginning, I was angry because I didn't make it where I wanted to be in life, but now I think it would be an inspirational book where I'm finding myself and still trying to find myself.
You still have some great accomplishments.
Yeah,
You've had a great life.
But you never see those, you know. I just find, like, if you're a driven person, you don't ever see. It's more like, well, what do I still want to do or I haven't accomplished, which, you know, it keeps you motivated. Yeah, I've been blessed. I mean, a storybook life, you know.
And you're part of this concussion is the last year that I asked.
Yeah, well, yeah, because, I mean, I know for sure I have CTE. Well, I don't know for sure because they don't know till they do an autopsy when I'm dead. But a lot of the issues that they have, I have, you know. And from football, considering football, the amount of stuff I went through in wrestling, I mean, it's a good chance. And 3 severe car wrecks, you know. I mean, the suit is not just about that. It's about WWE treating their employees fairly, and that's not just with money. It's about treating them human. You know, because they get away with, they don't take care of people like they should, you know. I'm not saying money or any one thing. It's just stuff that goes on doesn't go on. And the screen, SAG, actors have a union, NFL, NBA, NHL, you know, all these other things that generate money like that, and they're at that level. You know, they have a union, they have things to better the environment they're in. It's not just money, it's just everything, you know. I mean, we don't have a mortality rate of any other sport or business profession like in wrestling. You know, I'm not blaming that on Vince, but I'm like, that's stuff that goes on. Some of those reasons are things that could be made so much better, where guys would live longer and guys wouldn't have to work hurt because they'd have to be afraid of getting fired. You know, it's just basic stuff. I'm just hoping something good will come out of that. I'm not trying to get back at Vince, you know, or whatever. I just think it's something that's fair, you know. I mean, the NFL was, you know, not acknowledging the danger that's involved with pro football, and you know, they were ordered to pay out, but it's an appeal. None of those guys have got that. I know guys that are in the league that were on that. It was like $1 billion settlement. It's all upheld because it's an appeal. So they may never see it, but it's still the point of it, you know, bringing to light how dangerous football is. And guys shouldn't have to push themselves to where Junior Seau, like, he killed himself. I know that had to come out of CTE something, because that guy was as rock solid as anybody. I played against him. It's heartbreaking when you see these guys take their lives, and there's no drug use, there's no history of any insane behavior, and you know they were probably dealing with stuff that they couldn't comprehend, and they had no knowledge of that CTE, and that probably ended up costing them. If they just would have been acknowledged, you know, go to a doctor and say, well, this is what you have, this is why you're feeling like you can't take it, you know. And then like, okay, well, I'm not crazy, because, you know, because I deal with all that too, man, you know, mental stuff, you know.
Do you have any advice for aspiring wrestlers? It's a very tough business, and I know it's been hard for you, but
yeah, but it was an amazing ride. It's totally awesome. It's like anything. I mean, you have to, if it's your dream and you want to, you know, pursue something, whatever it is, you know, you look at everything. You know, you look at positive, negative, and get as much information from every source as you can, and try to make a decision which you think you can live with. You know, I mean, anything you do is dangerous. You know, we could walk outside and something can happen. You know, Professional sports. I mean, your body was never constructed or made by whoever created the human race. The body was never made to do that. You know, At the high school level is bad enough. You go to collegiate level, because you're abusing, you're destroying your body, you're accelerating the aging process by all the injuries. And as an athlete is constructed, he's constructed like a Terminator. You know, I'm okay. You know, anybody else would take off 6 months with an injury and, you know, get rehab, and then we try to get them back in 6 days or 2 weeks. You know, that's just the mentality of all sports and money and all that stuff. So, you know, your body, you pay that price, you know.
And lastly, is there anything you want to say to your fans that are going to watch this?
Well, if they watch it, I hope they do. I hope they enjoy it, because I just want to say thank you, man, to all of them. Anytime I meet somebody and they say something, it automatically gives me an injection of goodness, you know, because I mean, we're all battling, fighting our own demons and stuff. So fans are incredible, because you touch someone's life by what you did, you know. So thank them, and just I'm grateful for all of them, and you know, everybody along the way that helped me, you know, all the people in my life, coaches, trainers, everybody, you know, you. And I when I saw it, I'm like, hey man, that's my brother from back in the day. So my brain's getting forgetful, you know.
And where can people follow you on social media? Do you have any social media or anything?
Like Facebook? I don't do that Twitter much, man. I'm not very good with that. I know everybody says you should do that to promote yourself.
Yeah.
And I'd like to. I hope I can get this book written, and I'd like to do like a book of poems also, and maybe some other stuff, calendars and stuff, and just creative stuff, you know.
If somebody wants to book you for like an autograph appearance, do you have an email or anyone for them to contact you?
Well, yeah, I guess I might just say my email.
Say your email, yeah.
Okay, if you want to book or reach Heidenreich, you can email me at letters, all small letters, bbjheidenreich@yahoo.com, and that's from Big Bad John and OVW. Small letters, bbjheidenreich@yahoo.com, and I'll get back to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, brother. Thank y'all. I hope I didn't talk too much. You all right, brother? He's like, shut up already.
No, we appreciate the answers. Best of luck.
Well, I get into it when I'm talking about it. I'm reliving it, so that's why that energy comes. You probably see me like freaking, you know, just like it's exciting. So thank you.